2024, we're getting a brand new monster manual with updated stats, features, and traits for all of the creatures that we're going to be throwing at our players. I have access to a couple of the stat blocks that I'm really excited about for lower level combat, and so what I'm going to do is share some of the updated stat blocks, and I've also created combat scenarios using these stat blocks and these updated traits and features to utilize them to the best of our ability to make unique combat scenarios that feel like they highlight these creatures for what they are and should be. I've got 3 of those combat scenarios, 2 use updated stat blocks, and then 1 uses the same stat block because it didn't get any updates, but I have a really fun and interesting combat scenario for that creature as well. Hi, and welcome to Riddle and Rule. I'm Dan from MacLeod DnD, and if you like discussing rules and character creation and combat scenarios and all of that, if you want to stay up to date on some of the updates as they come out, you found a good home. So go ahead and give us a subscribe, and also let me know in these comments, please, your thoughts on these updated stat blocks and what you were hoping out of the monster manual. And let me know what you want to see out of the Player's Handbook and out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, as that's coming out very soon too. But let's dig in. The first stat block I want to highlight here is the Panther. The Panther's stat block is updated and has a new feature. And so what we're looking at is an armor class of 12 and only an HP of 13, so generally this is going to be for our lower level fights, but we're going to load up this combat with a couple other things to really highlight this Panther and make it a challenging combat scenario. We're also looking at this multi-attack. The Panther can make a pounce attack and use its prowl feature on its turn, which is awesome. This pounce has a new feature to it where if the Panther has advantage on its attack roll, it's going to be dealing more damage. You're hitting an average of 7 damage if this creature has advantage, which is why I would say not level 1. That's enough to kill a level 1 player's character outright. We don't want to be doing that. So maybe level 2, maybe level 3 is a good time for this combat. It also gets Prowl. The Panther can move up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. If you watch my other video, that is so common now for our characters to have these abilities that allow them to move in combat without provoking opportunity attacks, and seeing this in the Panther lets me know that we're also going to see more dynamic creature abilities when this monster manual comes out. Our creature is going to be moving around a lot more too, so combat is going to be way more fluid and dynamic, and I love that. Anyway, the Prowl. It can move up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks, and at the end of this movement, the Panther can take the hide action, which we want to be using as much as possible. So, here's the combat scenario for the Panther I want to pitch. What you're going to do is you're going to build out a road combat scene. So, your players are traveling from one place to another, and it's your typical, like, stopped on the road by other travelers. They turn out to be bandits, and they're trying to rob and kill the travelers, the players of the characters of your story. And so, what we want to design here is 2-3 bandits who stop the characters in their travel, maybe persuade them to stop, maybe help with something. And the whole thing that we're trying to do is to get these human bandits to try to get some of our characters prone. Now, you may try to persuade them to do it. Maybe, let's say they have a wagon that's broken down, and they're trying to persuade one of the characters to lay down by the wagon to help out by looking at something underneath. Something broke, something's leaking, who knows? And so you can maybe get one of your characters to willingly lay down on the ground. Or they jumpstart into the combat scenario and try to knock one of the characters prone using a walking stick or a staff or something like that. All of this to try to get a Panther to pounce on them with advantage on that attack roll because they're already prone. Another feature of this combat scenario is you want this area of the woods and the road to be very heavily foliaged. A lot of trees, a lot of bushes, maybe even knee-high to waist-high grass in this entire area. And so the reason we want to do that is then that allows our Panther to prowl really well. It's going to be diving away after its attacks and hiding, being really easy for it to lay down immediately. And so with this high brush, if a bandit knocks them down, then they might actually be really hard for that character to see because the weeds and the bushes are so high. So then being knocked prone is a huge disadvantage. That character can't see their party, they can't see what's going on until they stand up. Then you have these Panthers that are trained to then dive in and hunt on behalf of these bandits who get advantage on their attack rolls, extra damage on their pounce, and then they run off to go prowl and hide in the bushes. Now what has happened is your characters are dumbfounded by the scenario. Maybe they were suspicious of the bandits, but they should have maybe expected the Panthers because they were hiding so well, and then now they have these 2 Panthers that are diving in, making their attacks, running away without provoking attacks of opportunity, and then hiding, and then combat has started, and they gotta go find these Panthers while fighting with the bandits. And this is gonna highlight that Panther stat block and these new features that they have, creating immediate panic and tension for your players. So that's it for the Panther, that updated stat block. Next, I'm gonna jump into the Wolf. So I have the Wolf and the new Dire Wolf stat block as well. You can choose what combination of those you want to use. I'll share both of them as you can see them here on the feed, but let's highlight the Wolf first. So also, armor class of 12 and HP 11. So Wolves, again, easier to kill. We're looking at that same 2 to 3 level range, maybe 4. The Wolf also has pack tactics, and look at this bite action that it has. The update for the bite action in 2024 is that the target has the prone condition if it's medium or smaller, period. We're not making a saving throw anymore. The Wolf doesn't create a strength saving throw roll, and instead, when its bite lands, that creature becomes prone. And this is the same for the Dire Wolf as well, though it has some better stats. So, Well, now we want to create a combat scenario where falling prone is really rough, that you don't want to do, that falling prone actually has implications for the combat other than, well, I just stand up and lose half my movement speed once it's my turn again. So what we're going to do here is we actually want to create a combat scenario on an icy slope, something that's already difficult terrain, and I think we want to start this combat scenario as a chase scene, not with the wolves. What I would pitch is a yeti, or some type of larger threat, or something that the party is just like, clearly we want to get away from that. And so in this chase scene where maybe they're running up the mountain, up the icy, snowy slope, they're trying to get away from the yeti, and they should have a pretty good distance between them and this yeti. However, this yeti maybe collaborates with these wolves, they hunt together, they share the things that they kill, they have some type of relationship and dependency on one another, where now that the prey is running up the hill trying to get away, then a pack of wolves comes in, and the whole goal of these wolves is to get a bite in, get the part that gets their prey to land prone, and landing prone, it's on patches of ice, or they land prone and then slide, let's say 10 feet down that slope, and then they have to get up and use half their movement speed on their turn to stand. What you now have is wolves creating the opportunity for the yeti to catch up. Wolves creating the threat and the fear in the players where, oh, if it bites me and it hits, I get knocked down and I'm sliding towards this yeti that is charging up this hill trying to fight us. And so now there's more thoughts going on in this combat than, well, let me just stand and fight this wolf, or let me just get back up and fire off some arrows or spells. There's a need for movement. Get away from the bigger threat. Keep the wolves away. Do what you can to not let the bite's attack land so that you don't fall prone again. And so now we have this whole scenario built where the bite from the wolf who knocks him prone has really big implications for that combat, and maybe the party could stand to fight the yeti and the wolves, but they may choose, no, we need to aim more at survival. Let's maybe get these wolves away, scare them away, or fight them off so that we can get back to running the way that we need to. So that's my pitch for the wolf combat, using that automatic prone in a way that has greater implications than, well, I just stand back up and use half my movement speed to do so. So the last combat scenario I want to pitch is for the imp. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, the imp stat block actually has not changed at all. Has the same armor class, has the same health, the sting, invisibility, and shapeshift abilities are all the same. But while I was preparing for this video and scrolling through, I just got really excited looking at that shapeshift ability where the imp can resemble a rat and have its same stats for attacks while it was that rat. And I started to think, what would happen if the party was in combat with a pack of rats and they did not know that one of them was an imp that was dealing more damage to them until they got hit, and they're like, oh man, that one's poisoning me and it hurts. So I was thinking about that, and I created this scene where there's an inn, and inside of this inn, the players start to maybe realize that information that they share when they're talking here, other people, maybe their enemy, they start to realize that not everything that they've said has been private, that information has been leaked out. Or maybe it's not necessarily them, but the bartender has said that, where it seems like his rival knows so much more than he should about what's going on in the inn. And while the players are hanging out at that inn and having a meal and drinking and talking, then they maybe look up at the rafters, and somebody with a high perception notices that there's a rat that seems to be hanging on to their conversation, hanging out there and staring at them, like it's noticing them and taking in information. Even while they're talking, they notice it maybe tilt its head in a way as if it's comprehending, and it's just like, they realize that's weird behavior for a rat. Then the rat notices and it scurries away, goes down a hole, crawls its way down into the basement. And then the party goes down to investigate. They see that there's, 6 rats down there or so, and rats are not that big of a threat, but maybe they start a fight with them and start to attack, and then all of a sudden, one rat becomes visible because it used its invisibility on itself earlier, and it starts to attack and it's dealing more damage. It deals that 2d6 poison damage on its bite attacks as well. And then they're trying to sort out now, like, all right, let's kill these rats and figure out, and then they kill that rat and they see it becomes the imp. They see that, oh, there's actually some type of nefarious force going on within this rat pack as well. And then that may lead them to a greater investigation of what type of evil plot is going on behind this imp, what type of necromancer or what type of deal might this rival barkeep have that allows it to have this relationship with an imp that it was using to spy within this space. So then that combat scenario just becomes a little more dynamic. There's this rat that appears, it has some extra damage to it, it has some implications of what's going on in the world where this rival is actually using this imp rat as a spy within this other bar. So those are my 3 scenarios. Those are some updated stat blocks. Let me know your thoughts. What else you'd like to engage with? Is there anything from the player's handbook or the new Dungeon Master's manual that you're interested in that you would like to see in some future videos? Thanks for sticking around. Let me know.